Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Now TV, they're everywhere and they've all got their hands in your pockets. Scary, isn't it? But what if I told you that these tiny little subscriptions were actually draining you of your wealth and costing you tens of thousands of pounds over time? Today I'm going to show you the true cost of your TV streaming habits and how you can start to cut back without becoming a TV celibate monk. And more importantly, how to turn that money that you're saving into actual usable money for your future. So let's get into it. According to Barclays' monthly consumer spend report, the average Brit is spending £175 a year on their TV streaming. And that doesn't even include your music streaming, sports subscriptions, or the dreaded BBC licence fee. If you take all of that into account, you could be spending between £700 and £800 a year just on your TV and film vices. And it's not as if some of these companies really care about keeping money in your pocket. In fact, it's kind of scary looking back at some of the starting prices of these subscriptions to where they are now. Once upon a time, you could get a Netflix subscription without ads for £5.99. Today, that's £10.99. Disney Plus also launched at a similar level, £5.99, no ads, all in. Now it's £8.99. And my biggest personal frustration, Spotify Premium now costs £11.99. Don't even get me started. And most of us just let all of these subscriptions roll over each month without thinking. But what are these monthly subscriptions actually costing you if we zoom out a little bit and not just look at those monthly costs? Let's break it down and say that you've got all the major streaming services at Spotify at £11.99 for Spotify Premium, Netflix for £12.99 for their no ads plan, Disney Plus for £8.99 for the same thing, Apple TV with an £8.99 monthly cost, Now TV, this is the entertainments package for £9.99 a month, and finally Amazon Prime Video at a cost of £8.99 per month. Now, I don't think it's actually unrealistic that a lot of people would have all of those. I've certainly gone through phases of having most of these at any one time myself, and it's so easy to just let this cost disappear at the start of each month before you even look at your pay packet. But all of these streaming services in 1 month will cost you just under £62 per month. That's £743.28 per year, every year. And this is excluding BBC licence fees, sports subscriptions, or anything else you might have on top. And when we evaluate the true cost of this to your finances, we're going to look at the opportunity cost. This is the cost of the money that you're missing out on, the money you could have had if you'd used that money differently. So in an extreme scenario, what would happen if we scrapped all of those services and invested that money instead? So we're going to use that £743 that we've just calculated, and we're going to apply a 7% return on that, which is a rough guide for investment returns over the long term, which also accounts for inflation. If you'd invested this £743, over 5 years, you would get a return of £4,412. Over 10 years, that's £10,720. And if you're holding on to that subscription for 20 years, you could have had over £32,000 instead. So the opportunity cost of having all of these streaming services for the long term is 32 grand. That is mental. So do we just cancel everything? Well, before I answer that question, if you're getting some value from this video, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. It makes a massive difference to me and helps me to keep making this kind of content. Back to it. I don't think it's realistic for us to assume that one day we're going to have 7 different streaming services and the next we're going to have none. And I'm not going to tell anyone that they need to cancel everything and live in a tent. Especially when we live in the UK, where you're practically housebound for 11 months of the year, just waiting for that one little glimpse of sun. So instead of just scrapping everything, here's 2 smarter ways of looking at your streaming services without giving everything up. So the first scenario we're going to look at involves keeping everything, but just spending less on each subscription. Now that obviously sounds like common sense, but let's run through the difference that it could make if you downgraded some of these subscriptions or use different plans to make the most of your money. So for Netflix, we can drop that £12.99 cost down to £5.99 if we suck it up and just watch a few ads. Disney Plus, we can cut down from £8.99 down to £4.99 using the same method. With Amazon Prime, you can actually cut that £8.99 monthly fee down to £7.92 per month if you pay that cost in lump sum. So they offer a yearly plan, which works out cheaper than if you were paying that by month. On Now TV, you have an option to commit for a 6-month period, and that will drop your costs down from £9.99 to £6.99. And finally, my personal favourite, Spotify. Spotify have a family plan which can be used by up to 6 people, and you each get your own account as part of that. The cost of this is £19.99, so if you split that 6 ways, that would only cost you £3.33 each per month. Obviously, you need to find 5 other family members or friends to chip in with this, but I don't think it'd be that hard to find 5 people who also use Spotify and are probably paying £11.99 a month. So in total, making all of these changes, you would save £23.73 per month. That works out at just over £286 per year, which isn't bad considering we haven't actually given anything up. If you invested that money over 20 years, you'd have £12,048. Scenario 2 is a little bit more manual and requires a little bit more work, but essentially you can just cut your subscriptions down to the 3 that you most use. And this could involve cancelling and reinstating some of your memberships on a monthly basis, depending on what you're wanting to watch. This obviously goes another step further because it involves giving up some of these subscriptions and involves a little bit of work on your side to decide on which subscriptions you're keeping each month and which you're cancelling, but the returns are also greater. If we just kept Netflix, Spotify and Amazon Prime, because delivery kind of pays for itself with Amazon Prime, your cost drops to £17.24, which is a massive saving of £44.70. That's £536 a year, which, if invested over 20 years, would give you £23,285. And all of this just by being a little bit more intentional with your streaming setup. So this obviously isn't about just cancelling everything and throwing your TV out of the top floor window. It's about finding a balance that works for you so you can still watch your Marvel marathons, but also have enough to set you up later in life. And ultimately, convenience might have a different value to you than it does for me, than it does to your mates. And with all investing, there's no guarantee that you'll get any kind of return from it, and your money could go up as well as down. But if you can make a few smart cuts and actually invest that saving, you'll be doing your future self a big favour. So if this has helped you to think twice about some of those auto-renewing subscriptions, drop in the comments which subscription you would find hardest to give up. I'll share mine as well, and we can all decide on which we're going to cut together. And if you enjoyed this, please do check out this video, and hopefully I'll see you over there.